Hello, hello, and welcome back to the Astrology Show, where we go through all of the major transits of the week ahead and we weave them into the rhythm of the lunar phases. I'm your host, Sarah Posh, and this week we're getting into the Gemini New Moon. That means that we're starting a whole new lunar cycle. Cheers! Let me tell you, if I could describe this lunar cycle as one word, that word would be fresh. If you were with us in last week's episode, we talked a lot about how the third quarter lunar phase was really previewing or foreshadowing some of the really fresh energy that's coming into this Gemini lunar cycle. We talked about this imagery of putting windows, installing windows into a new house or a new room. And so this week, when we start this Gemini lunar cycle, we not only have the windows, but now we have the opportunity to step outside and start exploring this new world, these new opportunities. And this week, we really get to activate it because the ruler of the Gemini new moon, and so the upcoming lunar cycle, is the planet Mercury. And Mercury is in Gemini at the time of this lunation, boosting the significations of the Gemini new moon, as well as the power, the dignity, and the resources to make some really exciting things happen. On Monday, May 26th, we have the new moon in Gemini at 6 degrees. It'll be exact on Monday night at 8:02 p.m. Pacific time. Let's talk about the astrological significations first of this Gemini new moon and the setting stage for the lunar cycle ahead. So, some of the significations for this Gemini new moon are the fact that Mercury, the ruler of this new moon, is currently in Gemini. That means that the host of all the seeds of intentions that we are planting in this lunar cycle have the host there with them. They have the person and the resources that they need in order to most efficiently and really joyfully start to grow forward. The other major signification is that Jupiter, the greater benefic in astrology, the bringer of optimism, growth, expansion, Jupiter is in Gemini, co present with this Gemini new moon. And for the first time in a long time, Jupiter in Gemini is free from that overcoming square of Saturn in Pisces. This means that during this new moon, Jupiter is not only there to help, but it also is free from the voice of Saturn, feeling a little bit like this nagging check in from the person you didn't ask for advice from. Since Jupiter entered on May 25th, 2024, he's had to contend with the voice of Saturn, the voice of reason, the planet of constriction and consolidation. So, all of the things that Jupiter has wanted to expand and grow has had to check in first with Saturn, has had to make these really difficult decisions and go through this really exhausting sort of editing process of needing to kind of backtrack before we can really move forward. And so, hopefully, by now, we've learned and integrated some of those important and probably necessary Saturn lessons. And now that the adjustments have been made at this Gemini new moon, we're ready. We're ready to just grow forward. There will be another Jupiter square Saturn, one final round in this lunar cycle. However, this time it's going to be in different signs. Jupiter will be in Cancer, its place of exaltation, and Saturn's going to be in Aries. And while Saturn is not known for being extremely strong or dignified in Aries, Saturn is actually in its fall in Aries. In the beginning of Aries, Saturn is going to be transiting in the bounds of Jupiter. So that means that even though it's in Aries, it still has an authority. It has someone above it that it needs to answer to, and that's Jupiter. Jupiter, who's exalted in Cancer. So, this Jupiter Saturn square that's coming, I just want to foreshadow that this is not the same energy. This is not going to be the same conversation between Jupiter and Saturn as the previous two squares that we experienced in August 2024 and December 2024. So, back to this new moon. If we talked last week about these new windows being put in, and we think of this Gemini new moon as this opportunity to really step outside into this new world, the way that I've been talking with clients and visioning it for myself is really remembering the greater backdrop astrologically of what's happening for all of us collectively, which is that all of the outer planets are changing signs in 2025. Pluto is officially in Aquarius. It's not going back into Capricorn. It's going to be in Aquarius until 2044. We've got Neptune now in Aries. We've got Saturn now in Aries. And then the planet Uranus this summer in July 7th, I believe, is going to move into Gemini. And so these planets, the reason this is so significant to take a moment and explain that to you is because these planets are such slow moving planets that their transits last for years. Saturn being the shortest of all of them, 2.5 year transit. The remaining planets, these are kind of backdrop stages and containers and characters. The context in which life is holding us for the future is going to be different going forward, and it's going to be changing for the next decade plus. So everything that has led us to where we are now is going to be significantly different from what it is that's going to take us to where it is that we're going next. What is so special about 2025 in general is that all of these outer planet sign changes are doing so in such a way that they're in a positive communication line with each other. They're supporting each other. They're in these sextiles and trines, which in astrology mean that these aspects are fluid, they're stabilizing, they're helpful, they're synergistic. So all of these changes that begin really in 2025 begin with resourcing and momentum. This Gemini new moon is the first time where we're going to start to tap into that. We're going to have the planets that are moving through Gemini, the sun last week, now Mercury in this new moon. They're all making these supportive sextiles to Neptune and Saturn and Aries and these trines to Pluto and Aquarius. So we're not just getting to go into somewhere new, we're getting to go somewhere new and we get to tap into resources that were previously outside our even expected availability or possibility. It wants to open us, it wants to quantum jump us forward in time. An example of this is thinking about when we used to use like actual messengers to carry messages from me to you. It took them days. They had to travel through weather, right? And even thinking about how we had to write those letters. Then there was the invention of the typewriter that significantly improved the speed and efficiency of delivering our messages. And then there was the internet and so on and so forth. This is one of these epochs in time where we're going to feel and see, and if we are available for it, receive these invitations to quantum leap, to tap into these innovative resources or these discoveries of how we can really utilize new systems, new technologies, new connections, right? Being introduced to new people that take something that might have taken so long or been so hard before and make it extremely easy and fast and fun. It's collaborative. For this Gemini new moon, the archetype that was really coming to me strongly was the archetype of the magician in the tarot. So, Mercury as the magician. We have Mercury and the magician calling us into this place of not just manifestation, but the power of creation, to be the creator of our realities, to have the ability to navigate things as they come. And sometimes I think we forget that part of Gemini's rulership and power is associated with the hands. And the hands are these extensions of our hearts. They are the extensions in which we breathe life in, we breathe an idea in, and or we pull a feeling up from within us, and then we extend it out into the world. And Gemini is where we channel that and bring that out into form. We make it real and we extend it out into the manifest world, into partnership, both with our reality, our environment, and also with other people. So much of this lunar cycle and this Gemini new moon is about tapping into the inner magician within ourselves, this archetype of being this powerful creator. Instead of getting stuck in standing at this threshold of what was and what will be, knowing that we can't really go back. There is no going back. We are all only moving forward. And looking forward is a lot of unknown. And in that unknown has the potential to fertilize the soil of fear and uncertainty and worry. Or if we tap into our inner magician, our power for creation, we tap into the option of possibility. We tap into this state of curiosity and exploration. And the reason why I really want to infuse this energy and enthusiasm for your own creative power is because while Mercury is the ruler of this new moon, Mercury is going to form a perfect sextile to Neptune and Aries. And then following day on the 27th, Mercury will perfect that trine to Pluto and Aquarius. And so not only do we have the power of Mercury and the magician, we also have the power of Mercury and the magician who is connected to sources greater than ourselves. This is opening ourselves up to receive new awareness or new possibilities that previously didn't even seem tangible. I keep telling clients who are in this threshold of change, in this space between, I'm asking them just for right now, can you give yourself permission to let go of logic, let go of how, and can you just give yourself permission to ask and imagine if everything were to work out in my personal best case scenario, what would that be? Will I allow myself to even go there in thought and imagination? I really, really encourage you to give that permission to yourself with this new territory and new change on the frontier. It feels as though there is this new element of design that's coming in with this Gemini new moon. And it's as if we have a contracted divine architect who is bringing in all of these different ideas and possibilities and putting things together in ways that we've never really even thought about, or maybe we didn't have the technology to resource that idea or solution before, but now we do. This is about tapping into something bigger, something beyond, and giving yourself permission to stay open and receptive to be available to receive that. One thing to note is that from August to October, all of the planets that are going to start moving through Libra are going to start to activate these grand air trines. That means that they're going to touch Uranus, which will be in Gemini, as well as Pluto, which will be in Aquarius. This is just a taste, it's like a bite of a sample of what is about to come near August through October. So, right now, it's about exploring, it's about curiosity, it's about opening ourselves and our hearts to possibility from a place of hope and inspiration. If an idea has come to you, maybe more than one idea. We've had Jupiter in Gemini since May 25th, 2024, and we've probably had a surplus of ideas, some that stuck and some that didn't. And right now is the time where we're going to crystallize what idea is best idea, which idea we should prioritize, and which one we're ready to hit the ground running with. Another little side note, and it's something that I'm going to be doing in my personal practice, is knowing that Jupiter in Gemini is finishing this transit over the next 2 weeks. I'm going to also use this Gemini new moon to not just plant seeds for this lunar cycle, but also for how I want to end and complete this Jupiter and Gemini transit. And the best way to work with any Jupiter transit is through the energies of gratitude and generosity. The more we hold a space and energy of abundance and trust, the more amplified Jupiter is to resource us for opportunities and growth and expansion. So, documenting, looking back, doing a little gratitude journaling in my new moon ritual around all of the ways that I recognize Jupiter has impacted Gemini in my chart. And since Jupiter has been through Gemini, I can already just right now think of the things that Jupiter has expanded and gifted me here with. One being that I went to Europe for the first time while Jupiter was in Gemini. Thank you, Jupiter. I hope that that's the first of many adventures. The other being that before Jupiter leaves, I've officially started this podcast. Thank you, Jupiter, for giving me the motivation and the optimism to get going, to get started. But now I know Jupiter has 2 weeks left. And in the final weeks, free of Saturn with its ruler, Mercury and Gemini, I have the communication line. It's clear, it's open. I'm going to communicate to Jupiter. Jupiter, before you go, it would be so great if you could leave me with these things, if you could help me grow these things or in these ways. So, just something for you to kind of chew on or think about and maybe consider adding into your new moon ritual. All right, let's move forward. We're on Wednesday now. On the 28th of May, the moon in Gemini is going to be moving into Cancer. And this is something to pay attention to kind of in the background of everything else that's happening. Because as the moon leaves Gemini, it's going to make that final conjunction with Jupiter in Gemini. And then it's going to square immediately as it enters Cancer, Saturn and Neptune in Aries. So that gives us a little bit of a feeling tone, a little bit of this foreshadowing about what that square is really going to be asking from us. What is the conversation that Jupiter and Saturn are likely going to be coming up and bringing to the table? It's like bringing to the board, so to speak. And we can start thinking of some really helpful discussion points that we want to bring to the Jupiter Saturn board when it comes later in this lunar cycle. And then on Thursday, May 29th, this is the second biggest transit of the week. This is when we've got the Sun and Mercury coming into a superior conjunction called a Cazimi at 9 degrees of Gemini. What is a Cazimi? Cazimi is actually translated as getting to the heart. And so, whenever we say Cazimi, that's always denoting a moment when a planet is coming into the same place in the zodiac where the sun currently is. As this planet comes into this conjunction, as it crosses through the sun, it goes through this Cazimi. And this Cazimi is sort of a rebirth portal for that planet. It's a moment where it gets infused by that solar vitality and energy. There is a regeneration and a renewal energy that comes through that planet, and also a crystallization and a clarity of awareness that that moment brings that gifts us this crown of confidence and awareness and how we want to move forward. So this Mercury Cazimi is happening as Mercury is direct, which is why we call it a superior Cazimi. And it might also be this full circle moment of clarity of maybe some of the topics and likely points of confusion that were up for discussion and review back when Mercury was retrograde in Aries in April of 2025. Now, when it comes into this Cazimi, this is the moment where we're like, oh, the answer has arrived. So, really paying attention. What are some of the points of clarity that are coming into crystallization for you in this week, later in the week around Thursday? Are there any full circle moments? Have there been conversations or a sense of back and forth and negotiations that at this point there is a clear, concise, sign the dotted line, we are ready and we can move forward? If there is anything that you need to sign, if there is any communication that you need to send out, any invitation, this is a great time. A Cazimi is a great time to work with Mercury and to send those things out, to engage in those conversations, and to sign those contracts. We get to end the week with the moon shifting into Leo on Friday and Saturday. And with the moon in Leo, it's going to reflect back the light from this new moon and a supportive sextile to the Cazimi that we just had, to that new moon, to Jupiter. So in the weekend, there's a sense of collaboration and momentum that comes from some of the things that started to see during the Gemini new moon earlier in the week. I wanted to spend a little time at the end of this episode reading a couple things to you to help stimulate the energies of this new moon and this week's astrology. Of course, when I was prepping for this episode, there were books literally jumping off of my shelf, like, read me, read me. It was so Gemini. So the first thing that I'm going to read to you is called Neo Tarot. It's by Jericho Mandybur. And this is what the book looks like, if you want to find it like on Amazon. And this is really sweet. This book is awesome. The tarot deck and all of the interpretations are laid out and formulated to really come from a place and intention of self-care. And then the pages have these different categories, and I'll just tell them to you. So the first one is the number is 1 for magician. Planet is Mercury. Themes are power, manifestation, will, and magic. The affirmation for the magician I am a channel for divine energy and inspiration. I materialize my dreams. Mm, write that down, put it on a t-shirt, wear it for the new moon. Woo! All right, the meaning. The power of the mind is an incredible force, capable of anything. When the magician appears, we're invited to use that force for constructive, positive purposes. We have a limitless ability to tap into spirit, bringing heaven down to earth with us as the mere conduits. In that sense, we simply have to go about it with dedication and get out of our own way, making sure I heard that one. When you can do that, bridging spirituality and integrity, you can achieve greatness. The self care for this book is especially perfect, I think, for this Gemini new moon. So I'll read that as well. We all have the one song, the one that's so emotionally moving, so brilliant, so affecting. It brings us to our knees. The type made by artists who seem possessed, channeling something from another dimension. Re listen to the song that reminds you of what God given gifts look like. Know that we all have access to this, and ask yourself what you can do to bring heaven down to earth today. Mm, I love that so much. And, one person I was thinking of around these Mercury and Sun sextiles to the Neptune and Aries, and then also the trines to Pluto and Aquarius, the voice that changed the world, that spoke to the collective, but was coming from such a deeply, profoundly personal place was Maya Angelou. And it's so often that myself and likely you or others that we project somebody like Maya Angelou to be somebody so far away from who we could be or the impact that we could have. And the truth is that we are the only ones that have decided that. We really don't know. And to also remember that whether it's an entire collective that our words create healing waves for, or maybe just one stranger in our day, to not minimize the value of that impact, the value of owning who we are and sharing, whether it's our gifts, our ideas, our creations, our feelings. That is what we're here for. What would it be like if we lived in a world where everybody truly expressed and shared all of who they were? The unique genius, the unique weirdness, the unique feelings and passions inside of them. I imagine it would be a beautiful world. It would be a creative world. And we'd all be a lot less worried about where we fit or who approves or gets it. And we'd be a lot more likely to connect with the right people who are meant to hear it, who are meant to receive it, who are meant to collaborate and amplify it. We have this opportunity, this invitation, and it's up to us to step into it. And so I want to close this episode with one more reading, of course. And this is a reading that I invite you, if you can, to find a comfortable place, to allow yourself to take some really deep breaths, to feel that exchange in your body of inhale and exhale, of receiving and exchanging, releasing, and to just allow the words that I read to just settle into your mind and into your body, allowing and trusting that they will integrate and assimilate when and where and how they need to, how they're meant to. And if nothing resonates, if they don't feel like they settled at all, if you feel like you tuned me out, that's totally fine too. We can just trust. That's what's meant to happen. This reading comes from the book Prayers of Honoring Voice. And I'm going to go ahead and show you this book. And this passage is on honoring curiosity. Thank you for this day to question everything. Inspire me to quench my thirst for knowledge and answers. Remove my apologies for needing to ask who, what, why, and how. Expose me to the teachers who engage my mind and explain to me how it's done, how it works, how it's made, and how it's all connected. Sign me up for the course of life with the sole purpose of marveling at the wonders of the world. Strengthen me as a student of the extraordinary. Help me look behind the curtain and glimpse new worlds invisible to the bored, ambivalent, and indifferent. Activate my imagination so I may recognize and rescue treasure when I find it. Instill in me a determination for engagement in life, to be part of it, mixed up in it, and not a complaining spectator. Curb my cynicism and the need to have it all figured out. Disconcern me with what others think. Encourage me to investigate what I am called to know more about. Support my inklings and help me follow my intuition to new frontiers. Aid me in experiencing the joy that comes from removing passivity. Let me test my theories with you at my side, catch me when I fall, and set me upright again. Honoring creativity. Beautiful. There's going to be a lot of really exciting, thrilling astrology that's going to be happening throughout this month. And I'm looking forward to diving into the next episode next week with you, where we're going to cover the first quarter moon phase and the exciting transits happening during that week. Of course, it's best to subscribe, get notifications on for this channel so that you can make sure you have this episode in hand ready to work with that first quarter moon phase of this magical new moon cycle. If you like this video, if you like these episodes, if you want to support my channel, please like, comment, subscribe. It means so much. This week, I really want to know from everybody, do you feel like you're standing on a threshold of change? Do you feel like you're entering into the Gemini new moon as if the Taurus new moon really solidified what was past and what might or could be future? Let me know. Do you feel this threshold? What are you feeling at this threshold? Just in case you missed it last week, Saturn has officially entered Aries, starting the Saturn and Aries transit that will play out through 2028. If you feel excited, scared, you have no idea what to do about it, no problem. I'm here. We've got you. My great friend, colleague, Alexandra Blair with 9 Lives Astrology, we are co-hosting Unlock Saturn and Aries. It's going to be an online webinar. It's 2 hours with live Q&A. And the thing that we're both so lit up about with this webinar is that so much in the astrology community and online, the conversation about Saturn and Aries really focuses on a mundane collective level. And we're really bringing Saturn down to you, to the individual. We're going to really go deep and explore the significations of what a Saturn transit feels like, the questions that Saturn invites us into, the ways to work with any Saturn transit, and also identify the specific Saturn transit that you'll be in while Saturn is in Aries, which further deepens your ability to work with Saturn and Aries more constructively. And then, of course, we're going to have really fun visuals with art and archetypes to help you intuitively, somatically feel into the archetype of Saturn and Aries, and some really practical tools and resources for identifying when you need remediation or attunement in your Saturn and Aries transit, and also what to do when you recognize that. We want it to be digestible for all levels. We want it to be workable. We want it to be practical. Very Saturn. So you can sign up. You can find more information about that below in the link. It's going to be on June 2nd, Monday from 5 to 7 p.m. Pacific time. We would love to have you there with all of us, those that are already signed up. We're so excited. If you want to catch me on social media, you can also get my Instagram and TikTok links below. I'm always on social media. I do a different kind of style and flavor for sharing the transits and the astrology in those platforms. It's so much fun for me personally. So check me out there. And of course, if you are somebody who is standing at this threshold, you know you're at a threshold and you're like, I could use some help right now. I'm here for you. You can book a reading. My books are open for June and July. That link is also below. This is a great time to get a professional astrology reading, even if it's not with me, because there's so much energy that's really supportive, like I've talked about throughout the year of 2025. And even if we're at a place on a threshold of change where so much is unknown or we feel scared or intimidated, this is the year to take the leap, and to know those specific transits and dates and how they're working with your chart are going to help you feel more confident and clear. And knowing how these transits are going to impact you personally is always so helpful. And of course, if you ever have any questions or you want to have a conversation, you can always reach out to me by email or DM me on any of those social media platforms. I'm here and I'd love to answer any of your questions or engage in conversations with you. Thank you so much for being with me here today, celebrating this curious, exciting, expansive, creative Gemini new moon. And I can't wait to get back with you next week.